So I bought Medieval Dynasty in 2021, shortly after the game was released. It was one of those games that sat in my library for a couple of months before I actually played it for the first time. I may have bought it during the Steam winter sale or something to that effect. And when I started playing it, the first couple of sessions were rough. The game was, I just couldn't get hooked on it. It was tedious. It was a slog. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And it's one of those games that it doesn't have a very steep curve, but it's enough that if you're not really 100% into it, you can be like, I'm going to play something else. So I kept going back and forth with that game for the next couple of years, and eventually spent a long weekend playing on it the first time, really long sessions of it, and kind of got in the groove and figured out what I was doing. I'd watched a few videos and I'd just kind of figuring things out. So eventually I got to where I could build mid-size settlements, and they really had no rhyme or reason. They were all bunched together, trying to fit everything within the circumference of the storage buildings and keep everything intolerant. A lot of times I would put it someplace that it wasn't really compatible for long-term development. The topography was wrong, and I would just hit kind of the midpoint and get frustrated with it, and then sit it down for a while and eventually come back. I always felt like I needed to do more with the game, or really give it my best and see if I could kind of flesh it out and at least get farther in the game. So eventually I did that. And once I was able to get to a point where I was, looking at 40 or 50 buildings in my settlement, then that kind of got to a point where it was real tedious trying to keep up with everything. And I did have one village that was pretty big, and I pretty much maxed out everything, got the achievements for the city level development. But then after that, it was there was nothing else to do until I came across videos of village tours. And I realized that people were really designing their villages with intent and fleshing them out and decorating them and making them look really nice and as good as, if not better than, some of the in-game settlements. And one of the things that I did notice early on was that there were things in the villages that you couldn't replicate, that weren't in your asset list, that weren't decorations you could unlock, which was kind of frustrating. And I always thought maybe there was just something I was missing or whatnot. But it was very interesting to see what people were designing and the ideas they were coming up with. And that's when I really started to kind of get into the second tier of this game, which would be designing and decorating and not really worrying about the gameplay structure of it, your villagers and stuff like that. And then eventually realized that I could change the settings and take a lot of that irritating stuff away from it and really enjoy the game from just a pure creative standpoint. So that's kind of how I've been playing the game for the last, couple of years. Of course, the developers have put out a handful of things, but they really haven't done much in the way of moving this game forward. They added multiplayer. They did the Oxbow map, did a couple of little DLCs with different outfits and decorations, but I don't know, I've been frustrated with it, and that's one of the reasons why I made this video, was to kind of point out that the developers, I think, are leaving a golden opportunity on the table here. There's certainly games, if you're like me and you like this kind of stuff, there's way more games out there that have just tons of assets, tons of decorations, and this game just never really fleshed that out. Me personally, I know that if they were to release a DLC with an asset pack, that'd have to be a decent asset pack, not 5 or 6 bushes. I'm talking about 20 or 30, item asset packs. I'd pay $10, $15, $20 for it. Hell, they could keep going if every so often they released a new DLC with a bunch more decorations and assets for the game. For me, they could. They'd get my money. And I'm sure there's more people out there that feel the same way. So I think that if they would just really take the time to develop that side of this game more, that it would be worth their while. Now, I know that they've put out their 2026 roadmap, and there's more decorations listed on there, and there's the inhabitants using furniture and that kind of stuff, which, that's fine. And the AI isn't necessarily top-notch in this game, and that's not a criticism. I'm not here to criticize the developers of the game. I really love the game. I just wish they would do more. Make the design aspects dynamic. Make your assets overlap. Make it so you can resize things and you can position them over each other and build whole new design structures out of different assets by puzzling pieces together. I think it would be great. They could make quite a bit of money off of it in my estimation, but that's just my opinion, and I just felt like I needed to put that out there, and you never know. One of the developers may run across this video and see it. I'm sure there's many others like me out there that feel the same way, and just wanted to see what you guys thought about it.